Don't forget to click that subscribe and bell icon to receive a notification each time I upload a new video. What are you doing? Stop sniffing the carpet then, you won't get bits of fluff up your nose. Strange dog. Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So Friday the 13th of May is our friend Kerry's birthday. Unlucky for some, I know, but not for Kerry. Now, Kerry works or owns our local garden centre, a nursery. And she's always been very kind to us. Whenever we've been and bought anything, she's always kind of given us free plants, or if we've bought anything which is too heavy, she's always offered to deliver it for free. And on a recent visit, I was talking to her about, creating artworks and that kind of thing, and showed her some of my canvases that I'd made, my mixed media canvases. And she was absolutely bowled over. She absolutely loved them, mainly because I use a lot of cherubs. And she adores cherubs. So it's her birthday coming up. So what I want to do is to create her own canvas using her favourite colours, which are black and silver. So let me turn over to my other camera and show you what I'm going to create for Kerry's birthday. So, while we were out shopping this morning, grabbing some lever arch files for our account, I grabbed hold of this 8" by 10" frame. So it's a black frame, which is perfect for what Kerry wants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just strip it back to its bare bits and pieces. So now normally these frames come with a bit of packing on the back that's stapled on. Yeah. So I can remove those staples before I give the frame to Kerry, so that's not a problem. But I will also be leaving this back mechanism on so that she's got the option of either standing it up or hanging it. So what I need to do is just twist the back panel holders to make sure they're all twisted out the way. Then that back panel, which is what I'm going to be working on, can come out, and then take the paper. It's going to be fiddly, and I know there's glass under there, so I don't. There we go. So that's rubbish, and I'm also going to take the glass out. And that will get repurposed for something else at a later date. I've got a bit of a collection. So when that goes back in, I'll need to be careful when putting the stays back in to make sure that it also stays in the same position, which will hold it back from the edge of the frame. Can you see? So that's going to give me a bit of depth to work on. So I'll just need to bear that in mind for when we're working on the actual composition itself. So I'm going to do a portrait composition that way. But before I begin, what I want to do is I want to add some texture paste onto this so that I'm going to paint it. So I'm going to paint it black. And I'm going to be using my distressed damask stencil for this. Now I recently ran out of my structure paste. Wow, that's bright, isn't it? Very, very bright. Recently ran out the structure paste. I hadn't been able to get hold of any for a long time, and then on a recent trip down to Indigo Blue, they had some of their fine true grit in. So this is from their Junk and Disorderly range, which is perfect. Now, they didn't have very much of this left in stock, unfortunately, because I found out from Alfie, the guy that owns the business, that there's a world shortage of the components, the polymers and the kind of ammonia kind of chemicals that go into this kind of thing, because it does have a faint smell of cat pee. I know, it sounds horrible, doesn't it? But it isn't. It isn't. It's not a horrible smell. You just don't stick your nose in the pot. Right, so I'm going to lay the stencil down just like so. It's kind of, it's very fine, which is why I like using this, because you can do it and it's really kind of fine texture which goes into all the detail on your stencil, and you get a real kind of nice even spread. It's lovely stuff. So I'm going to take it a little bit towards the edge. It's not so deep that it's going to cause huge great ridges. It's just going to give you a nice bit of background texture, and it doesn't take long for it to dry either, because it's nice, thin and fine. But what I always like to do is I always like to clean my stencil in between applications, clean the spatula, because if you do let it dry, it's an absolute devil to get off again. So I'm going to go clean the spatula, come back, we'll dry this bit off, and then I can come back and add some more texture down here at the bottom. So off to the bathroom to do a bit of cleaning. I'm just drying the stencil off. So people often ask me how I clean my stencils, and it's just literally with lukewarm water, and I use an old toothbrush just to get the texture paste out of the pattern, and then I flip it over and clean it from the other side. It's easiest if you do it straight away, because otherwise it's an absolute, like I said, an absolute devil to get off. Not a job I enjoy doing. Right, so that's pretty much dry now. So dry enough for me to be able to move the stencil over like so. Grab some of that texture paste, and then I can carry on. A little more. So I'm using the edge of the spatula. So I have it, once I've put the paste down in a blob, I hold the spatula at around a 45-degree angle and then just drag it. So if you're new to using texture paste with stencils, there you go. There's my top tip. Don't try and squeeze it down too far. Keep it at about a 45-degree angle and just go gently. There we go. That'll do, I think. Look, that's fine. Lovely. Okay, so once again, get this cleaned off, let that dry, and then I'll be back. Hello, Mr. Bentley. You come to see me? No. He's getting out of the way. Ian's decorating downstairs. We decided to do the lounge. Well, actually not decided to. We decided to do the lounge ages ago. We just haven't got around to it. But Ian started today. So, and it's a one-man job that he's doing at the moment. It's just sanding the walls and filling in preparation for paint. So I'm out of the way, and so is Mr. Bentley. So there we go. Right, I'll get this cleaned before it dries. Okay, so that's now dry enough. I can put the texture paste away. Mucho drier for painting or for gluing. Okay, so next thing, I have my high-powered glue gun, which I'm about to turn on. There we go. That's going to start getting pretty darn hot now. And I've got my collection of resin pieces that I want to use. Now, I did say that I was going to use cherubs, so we've got one there, big one there. I want some wings, so I've got those. got the moon face, which is part of the faces set. The wings are part of the Time Flies set. I've got some flowers that I'm going to incorporate there as well. And a few other bits and pieces. I've got two different clocks here. One which looks like a carriage clock, which has got a flat base, but there's also a larger one. So what I might do is I might combine both of those, put one on top of the other, so that I've got a larger shape to play with. There's nothing wrong with combining shapes. I've also got maybe a couple of cog type steampunky pieces, and I may also just put into the background as well. I've got quite a bit to go at. I've also got lots more that I could draw on if I need to. So that's going to be the base. I'm not worried about these two bits up here because I can always add some MDF pieces just to go on there as well. Lots of different bits that I can use to put my composition together. So let me just have a quick play and see what I'm going to be doing. I've got to bear in mind that I'm going to be losing a little bit at the edge, so I've got to keep that into consideration, or keep that in mind. Let me flip that around so it's upside down, and then put the clock so it's there. And then what I can do is maybe sit two of those cherubs on there like so. I've then got the wings that I could maybe add in about there, and then I've got the big cherub to go at the bottom. And I did say that Kerry liked her cherubs, didn't I? So if I put maybe a flower there and a flower there, and then put the big cherub down at the bottom, or I may actually put the cherub so it sits across the middle of the clock. Actually, I think I like that better. And I've got this little frame here, so we could mirror maybe that. That's going to take us too far. I think maybe we need to move the composition up a tad. Just a wee tad. Bring those wings in. Obviously I will try and make sure this is all level and straight. I've got a clock mechanism there. Could put the cherub floating across the middle of those two, couldn't I? I've got to add a couple of steampunky elements to it, or otherwise it wouldn't be one of my compositions, would it? Alright, so I've got a couple of these little florally bits here, which they can go there. Maybe another one across there like that. It's looking all very symmetrical, isn't it? Which is okay. It's okay to do symmetrical occasionally, rather than asymmetrical. So then we can also maybe just add a small cluster. I can put the faces up there then, can't I? That's going to look quite nice. I may just add that down there. No. Have we got a smaller floral item there? Maybe a smaller cog, just like so. And then I can maybe add maybe a little composition-y thing up the top there. Just maybe 3 little items just from my stash. Just a couple of screw heads down there, and then I can bring that one probably to about there. I've got another small screw head somewhere. Yeah, I think. Put that one there and bring that one down there. I think that's pretty much going to do it. I might just bring that up there a little bit. Yeah, I I think I'm going to be happy with that. So what I need to do is I need to take a photograph of that. So I need to grab my camera. And then I can take a picture so that I remember where everything went. There we go. So I've now got a picture that I can call back onto at any time and zoom in, and then I know where everything goes. There we go. So I can now take all this off and we can start gluing everything down. Alright, so if I take those up from over there, I'll need to stand my phone up so I can see the picture to refer back to at all times. There we go. Now we're going to have to turn it around now because I've, do you know, it's one of those things where you've got to fiddle around. That's it, just to get it to the right orientation. That's better. Right, now I can see it. So I'm using my high-powered glue gun because even when I use the hot drying gun, it won't remelt because it's a really, really high temperature. Okay, so I'm not going to paint the background with black gesso just yet. So the first thing to go in then is going to be that. So let me just double check to make sure I've got it pretty much in the middle, which I don't. I just want shimmying over a tad. That's pretty much in the middle. Once I've got that down, I'm going to be okay. So I just need to grab a pencil or something. I'm at that stage again where my desk is becoming quite congested with stuff. That pen will do. Now then, just need to make sure it's also level. That's near as it's going to get, I think. Let's put those two little marks there. Right. Is the glue gun ready? Is it ready yet? Yes. Okay, so let's put a load of glue on the back of there. It's a very hot glue gun. Now don't worry about the strings that we're going to get. I may have to get my head in shot for this one, so excuse me. Before, just to make sure quickly, yeah, that's pretty much in the middle. Let's give it a squidge. Make sure you're level there. And I know the clock's upside down, but that's fine. Remember, we said that's okay because we're going to be covering it over with this one. And then we've got that one down there towards the bottom. It's already gripped. Okay, so I think actually I may not have gone high enough. That's okay. So while I add all these bits on, because it's not going to be all that interesting for you guys to sit and watch me do this, there we go. I know all the clocks are upside down, but that's fine. You're not actually going to see them, so a load of hot glue. If I weren't filming this, if I was just doing this on my own, just for me, I would probably have used a hot gel medium, because it would be a lot quicker, and I'm going to need a lot more on there, aren't I? No, that is going to stick. That's fine. That's going to hold. Right, so as I was going to say, right, I'm going to whiz off, go on to fast forward, and start adding all these elements on, and then I'll catch with you again at the end. Okay, I think that's all of the bits. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you, if you've been watching that intently, will have seen me burn my fingers, but don't worry about it, it wasn't badly. It was just a little bit of a ooh, and that was it. So I've been going around, if you've noticed, and also just taking off and removing any kind of awkward strings that I could see, but I think composition is pretty much there how I want it now. Everything just needs to be, yeah, I think I'm going to have to lift off the moon face because it isn't central, so I'm going to have to try and get underneath with possibly a metal palette knife. Just turn that around. There was a couple of times while I was doing it and I kept checking it and it was, no, that's stuck, that ain't going anywhere. Never mind, it's just dropped down a little bit, but you won't be able to tell. Okay, so I need to leave that for a minute or two for it to cool down and solidify completely. But you could see by how I've just tried to lift off that sun and moon element, and it's not going anywhere. That is not going anywhere at all. I'd probably need a hammer and chisel to get that lifted up. But let me leave it for a little bit longer, just to be on the safe side, and then I'm going to come back and then we can start adding some paint. So the black gesso I'm going to use is indigo blue because I've got lots of it. I always stock up whenever I possibly can. Whenever I go down, I always grab an extra 2 pots or so, and then I'm just going to use a small brush to start off with, just to kind of get into those areas that I think are probably going to be the most difficult to get the paint. So just get into those real difficult areas first. Now it'll probably take a good 2, maybe 3 coats of the black gesso before I'm happy with the coverage. So that's my prediction anyway, because based on previous goes, now I know there are people that like to paint all their items before they put them onto the board, but I don't. I'm not one of those. I like to be able to see where everything's going. Oh, yes, yeah. It just reminded me of a white paint that we used to have, that when you first put it on was pink, and as it dried it went white. But that was more of a domestic kind of ceiling paint or wall paint than a gesso. But you know, technology and all that. I'm sure that if somebody had the wherewithal, they could create a white gesso that did the same thing. That would be useful, wouldn't it? Went on pink and then dried white. I mean, you get glue that's purple when it goes on, and then when it dries it goes clear. Elmer's glue, there you go, you see, goes on purple, dries clear. So the technology is there. We just need some clever boffin to work it out. Right, okay, so you can see I'm adding the gesso to everything. I'm going around, stabbing motions to get under and in all the nooks and crannies, or the crooks and nannies as I like to call them. So I'll whiz off onto fast forward because, you know, watching somebody paint something black ain't the most interesting thing to do, but at least we can minimise that by doing it in fast forward. See you in a little while. Okay, so that's the first coat. So the best thing to do is to turn it round as you're painting. That way you get to see it from all different angles and you can see if there's any spaces or little dots that you may have missed on the first go. So that's the first coat. So what I need to do is get it dried off, which I'm going to use my heat gun because obviously it's quicker, and then I'm going to apply a second coat, which I won't show you because that's going to be too boring, and then I'll need to work out a way of just disguising this little hole here in the back of the canvas. So what I might do is I might just add a few other little elements to it before I start adding on any more or any of the metallic paint. So right, let's get this coat dried first and then we'll move on. Okay, so that's pretty much dry now, so none of those pieces are going to fall off. They're set like concrete. So when I was talking to Kerry about her favourite colour choices, she said black and silver, which is a very classic kind of look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a coat of black gesso to start off with, and then I'm going to add a black metallic over the top, which is going to be the indigo blue raven black, which I'll show you in a little while. But to get started, I'm going to paint the canvas now, try and get into all the nooks and crannies with the black gesso. Doesn't matter what black gesso you use, as long as you use black gesso, because that's going to give you the dark base to create the rest of the colour and build the rest of the colour on. All the gesso is now dry. As you can see, I've got my indigo blue raven black metallic paint out here, and I just managed to get some on my finger and I've just smeared some on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to cover everything totally in the metallic black. I'm going to just add some big blobs of it just into the background, and then I'm going to get my spritzer bottle out And then we're going to start adding some sparkle just around the page, or not the page, or the canvas. And we're just going to let it run and do its own thing. Get plenty up here. You can see the difference already just by adding that little bit of metallic sparkle. Just get plenty on the actual canvas itself because I want it to run and spread. I may just have to add a little bit more glue just underneath the cherub because it looks like it's coming a bit loose. That's my fault, but nothing that can't be remedied. It's not a huge problem. Right, okay, so I'm going to grab some water and literally just release the pigment, that sparkle, in the paint. Let it just grab hold and run. I want it to sit in as many of the kind of nooks and crannies as we can. Activate the sparkle. Just run around with the brush. Okay, lift it up. There's none down towards the bottom here, so let's just activate a little bit down there. Just as a base coat. And then just quickly give it a big spritz. While it's all still very watery. Up there. Just grab a little bit more. I'm just working it in with the brush, letting it sit and do its own thing. Hello, Mr. Bentley Boos. Okay. I think that'll do. So let's get that dried off. The metallic paint on the canvas has now dried, and I have just quickly gone back over again just to dull down a few areas. But I think you'll agree it does have a nice kind of background shine to it now. So what I want to do next is to add some luster wax. So I've got the luster wax from Sizzix. This is the silver. Obviously the silver and black are Kerry's favourite colours. So I'm just going to put a little bit onto the brush and just work it into the brush onto my craft mat, and then I'm just going to very gently just start going over, get rid of hairs, and just start to catch all those kind of raised areas, particularly paying attention to places like the cherub's hair, the wings, and I'm just lightly dusting over the top. I'm not going mad. I can always grab any stray hairs a bit later. And like I always say when going over things like the wings, I always go against the grain. So as you can see, the grain's going diagonally. So I'm going to work against that. So it's just going to catch the highlights and leave those darkened areas on the wings. So just catch, just lightly. And just gently. Now I know obviously this is black and silver, so it's going to be quite difficult to grab or to see, because obviously it's just going to start shining. So all you're going to get is, I suppose, a bit of reactive glare from the camera. But you should start to see the detail start to appear emerging from the background, particularly like around the clock face. As I start going round, the detail starts to appear. And then very gently over the top of the sun and moon characters, really, really gently. What I don't want to do is to get any of the silver into like the eyes or anything like that. So I'm just going to work around. You see how that's now starting to shine. Compare that now to the cherubs here, and you can see the big difference with this luster wax. Here we go. They really take on a kind of metallic appearance. I'll just turn that round, then we can start picking up some of the wax on this cherub. His face just suddenly starts to appear. So his face emerges from the darkness. Okay, and again with the wings, just refresh the wax. There we go. And then we can just start to catch some of that detail in the background. There we go. Okay, so look at that. I'm very, very happy with the way that's turned out. Very happy indeed. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave that. Oh, excuse Ian. So I'm going to leave that just to sit and dry and set just for a minute or two. And then I'm going to come back in, maybe a little bit more on that rose there. That's it. Alright, I'm going to sit and let that sit. I'm going to sit and let it sit. Yeah, I know what I mean. Just for a couple more minutes, just for the wax, just to kind of set in place. Then I'm going to come back with a cloth, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of a buff. As you can see, I've added the canvas. Well, that's not really a canvas, is it? I've added the project back into the frame, so I think it looks really, really nice with that black frame. So the final thing that I needed to do was to just buff up the wax finish, the luster wax, just like that. And you may also notice I have solved that issue of the moon face being too far down. I did actually heat it back up again until the glue got warm enough for me to be able to actually manoeuvre it and push it, and then stick it back down, and then I had to wait for it to cool down again, which it's still a little bit warm now, but still warm enough or cool enough for me to just go over a little bit more. So, but I think when I put the heat gun on it, it may have just taken a little bit of that luster off. So I'm just going to go back, because obviously when you heat wax, what does it do? Yes, it melts. So it may have just taken just a tiny, tiny bit off. There we go. So I'll just add a little bit back on, and then I can just give it another buff over. That should do nicely. So I've got the wax on my worktop, which if I now try and clean that off, it won't move. So I've got a little bit of alcohol. So, and a piece of tissue, and watch. It just comes straight off. There we go. So here in the UK, we can't buy isopropyl alcohol. We use surgical spirits, which is slightly different. Not the same, but does exactly the same thing. Right. So now I can just buff. Look at the shine on the side of the face now. That's much better. Definitely, definitely happier. Just give the cherub's bottom a rub. It's something you don't hear every day. Just to polish it, give it a little bit of a shine. And I think I'm actually happy with the way that looks. So that's it. All I have to do now is just to wrap it up and then write on Kerry's birthday card, and then we're going to pop up tomorrow morning and give it to her, because she's open on a Sunday. It's a garden centre, of course she's going to be open on a Sunday. So yeah, I hope that she's going to be very happy with it. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me create this cherub canvas for Kerry. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, because it really does help, and share it with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking that button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.